So now we have to look at one or two things even in the mantra before we go to the first sloka, which is Bhuvasva. And that is, when we say prachodayat, stimulate my intelligence, please make a distinction between intelligence and intellect. Intellect is gathering of knowledge. I think there are many people who don't have intelligence but who are very big intellectuals. You think this is a contradiction. It's not. Intelligence sometimes you find in an ordinary rickshaw driver or in a farmer in the fields. Intelligence. Intellect happens when we gather knowledge. So intellect, when you say I have intellect, means I am learned. I have gathered a lot of information. No, I don't think we can gather as much information as a supercomputer. There also we are down. But we are very proud of our intellectual attainments because we have gathered knowledge. I have read this, I have read that. I have a lot of knowledge. I carry it in my head. So much so that so much weight I can't keep straight. Neck is paining. Why I carry so much knowledge in my head? Believe me, I don't carry any. It is a clean slate. The best way to live is to have a clean slate. What is required will come when necessary. I don't know if you understand this, but anyway. So, illumine my intelligence. Now I'll explain once more why knowledge is distinguished from intelligence. Intelligence is that spark of understanding, which is like Shruti, it is immediate. Intellect or knowledge is that which is gathered, digested, worked out, formulated and kept for future reference. There is a beautiful sloka in the Ishavasya Upanishad which confuses a lot of scholars generally, because either they ignore looking at it or they find some explanation for it. It says, he who worships ignorance, this is from Ishavasya Upanishad, one of the earliest Shrutis from the Veda. He who worships ignorance goes into darkness. That we can understand. We all say that's very simple. You should not worship ignorance, of course. But the next sloka that follows is rather funny. It says, and he who worships knowledge enters into greater darkness. So some people think they must be trying to confuse us, or is it a play with words? Would an Upanishad be playing with words? He who worships ignorance enters into darkness. Okay, understood. He who worships knowledge enters into greater darkness. The thing is that knowledge as we know, I'm not saying you don't need knowledge. You need knowledge to drive, you need knowledge to, what do we do, make money, all that is required. But from the spiritual point of view, what you need is intelligence to understand something immediately and hold it. You don't have to hold it. If it is understood, it is with you always. It needs, so, because normally when we say, I have a knowledge of something, what does it mean? That means, let's say this microphone. Before I I did not know anything about a microphone. Then I looked at it, I asked people, I studied it and I understood what a microphone is. Okay. Understanding is essential. After having understood it, what do? I store it in my memory. Right? So when I say I have knowledge of the microphone, it means it is stored somewhere in some part of my memory and I can draw it at will. Whenever I want, I can recollect it. This is what I mean by having a knowledge of a microphone. Now it is in my memory. Now the Upanishad says, the rishis say, that memory is always a thing of the past. It cannot be something in the present. We know of no memories which are present. They are always in the past. So all knowledge which is stored in the form of memory, retrievable of course, is part of the past. And the supreme truth that is called the Brahman is not something which is in the past. It is here and now. Therefore no knowledge can touch it. The direct understanding that comes when listening to the Shruti, or when for a split second the knowledge and the burdens that we have carried and the theories that we have are all gone and the mind is in quietness, that is Shruti. Everything else is concocted by the human mind. It is required for existence, but in this field, the less burdens we have, the better. Now, about those who have studied a lot and have become pandits. Another great Upanishad, which is called the Mundaka Upanishad, talking about those who know a lot and therefore think that they have touched the spiritual core. Think. When they, in their pride of knowledge, begin to become teachers and lead others, the Upanishad refers to them as andheinaiva niyamanayat andaha, the blind leading the blind. Because both will fall into a ditch. I've studied so much, so I know. The Upanishad says, he who knows, knows not, and he who knows not, knows. Now then it should not become a new fashion, I don't know anything. I know there is someone I know, a very good friend of ours, who talks the dialogue always, starts the dialogue like this. Sir, actually I don't know anything, and then goes on for 1 hour. So, this is the distinction between gathering of knowledge and understanding. And the Upanishad and the Gayatri speaks of this understanding, stimulating of understanding. When this happens, on one hand, you go close to the source from which all intelligence comes. And on the other hand, when required, all that is required will come. It need not be. So, now, again, talking about the truth, the supreme truth, which hopefully we are not seeking. The Upanishad, Kena Upanishad says, Yan manasana manyute yanahur manomatam. That means that which even the mind cannot grasp, and to which the mind owes his existence to. Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi, understand that is the supreme Brahman. Inedam yad itam upasate, nothing that you worship here. This is also Shruti. The Kena Upanishad is also from the Samaveda. The beautiful Veda. Samaveda is always sung, not chanted. 90% of the Samaveda is Rigveda, but set in songs, in different ragas. The Sikh gurus discovered this secret very early, and they set all their Bani in ragas. Because when it is sung, it has an effect which comes to you even if you don't understand what is being said. Kabir Das also. There were great mystics like Sadashiv Brahmendra in the south, or Tyagaraja Swami, whose only activity was singing, nothing else. Because they realize that all these intellectual exercises and acrobatics may be good in one department, but not effective in this. So therefore, the meaning of illumine my intelligence means illumine that part of me that sees things which are not understood by the senses, which cannot be processed by the brain, which and with great awe just looks and says, this is what it is. Now the thing is, when the intelligence is aroused, the inner intelligence, you may call it intuition if you like, then the side result is, of course, your intelligence also becomes sharper, ordinary knowledge also becomes sharper. Why? Because the mind becomes one-pointed and therefore gets the capacity to understand things faster than somebody else. I think what has happened in this process of long tradition that has come to us is that when the knowledge part became more important and the spiritual part was neglected, lots of people became super intelligent as far as knowledge is concerned by chanting the Gayatri. The spiritual one was neglected. Now we need to revive that part. There has to be some effect of the Gayatri. If not in awakening the intelligence, it definitely awakens the intellect. So it's useful even if you don't want to touch that, it's still useful to chant. In high school and in school, many of my close friends were Iyer boys from that area. Day in and day out, the only food they would bring for lunch is curd rice and pickles. Maybe an occasional papad. And here my mother used to think the brain has to improve, someday brain, health has to improve, sometime liver, and so on and so forth. I didn't eat, but that is a different story. Much. Did eat little bit. But when the results came out, these Iyer boys always got 100 out of 100, especially for maths. And they played cricket also very well. And I told my mother, all your dietary theories are bunk up. This is what is happening. So, what I mean is, I am hoping that these guys chanted the Gayatri, maybe. Because those days people were still little bit, I don't know, I have no explanation for this. So probably they did. But the inner search and going towards spiritual doesn't come to everyone like that, whatever be your background. It comes only to some people who realize the fakeness and the hollowness of this existence. Then it comes. Now when it comes, the Gayatri is a very important thing to chant. Because it immediately incites the mind to go in search of that which is deeper than the outer world. Now, we also need to explain now the meaning of Bhur Bhuvaswa. Apart from the fact that I personally believe and I know that there are other realms, lokas so called. It also applies to, as the Mandukya Upanishad explains, it applies to the 3 states of consciousness which is common to all human beings. Bhu refers to the first word first syllable of Om, which represents what is called the Jagrita Avastha, waking state. The waking state in which we, I hope, are. Unless we had a heavy breakfast. So, its waking state is Jagrita Avastha. That means Jagrit means awake, wakefulness. A state of wakefulness, which is common to all of us. We are all awake, hopefully. So, And it is common to all living beings, no matter who they are or where they come from. Bhuva, Bhuvar, Loka, is a symbolic representation of the other state of consciousness, which is called the dream state. It's called Swapnavastha, which is also common to all of us. Not only we dream at night, we also daydream very often. Now, dream state is what is called Swapnavastha. It's also called Tejasa in the Mandukya, because Tejasa means that which is illumined by itself. It doesn't require external light, because in the night when you are sleeping, your eyes are closed, there is no light, but you see everything in full light inside. So it's Tejasa. By itself, it has a source of light. It does not require the sun. Then Swa. Swa is basically a definition for Swargaloka, short form for Swarga. And in our day-to-day existence, what is Swarga for us? Jagrita, Aswapna, Shushupti. Deep sleep. Why is it Swarga? Because there we are supremely happy. Why? Because we don't even know that we exist. It's only when we exist that I have enemies, friends, husbands, wives. When there is nothing, when I don't even know that I exist, it's absolute bliss. So the Rishi said the only way to be blissful is to forget that you as a limited being does not really exist. And how do you know it? In deep sleep. Although we are not aware of it at that point. But when we wake up, we say, aha, that was a wonderful sleep. You're rejuvenated. What would have happened if there was no sleep? Even with sleep, we are so turbulent. If there was no sleep, it would have been hell. And everybody wants to sleep, from the laborer who lifts the sacks of rice from the truck to the intellectual who sits 13, 20 hours in front of the computer. Everybody wants to sleep. After you have food and shelter, the one thing you want is to sleep. So, why? Because then you are really rested. Why? Because you are not aware of your existence. So, even though you are not aware of your existence, there is something existing. Because we always come back and say that was a very enjoyable sleep. Now that ID, that being that exists through both waking, dream and deep sleep, as a witness of all these three states but not caught up by any of them, is called the Sakshi, or the essence of our being. And it is this essence of our being about whom one can only grasp theoretically by understanding the phenomenon of sleep. When this is understood, that state is called Turiya Avastha. And when you chant Om, if A represents waking state, if O represents dream state, and if Ma represents Shushupti or deep sleep, Om. Why deep sleep? Because when you say Om, any new word you have to utter, the mouth has to be opened again. It's a closing down of all movement. Now when you have chanted Om, it doesn't stop there. Om. If you ring a bell, after a while you can't hear the bell, but the bell does not stop. The sound does not stop. It's that the frequency of hearing of your ear is strong enough to only feel that much. Now that slow movement of sound which you cannot hear and which is silent is in the structure of the Sanskrit word called ardhamatra, that which is not full but ardha, sound, a time which is half somewhere. This is called Turiya, where it is not waking state, it is not swapna, it's also not deep sleep because there you are not aware at all. It is as if in deep sleep one is aware. And it is the experience of the rishis that when that awareness is understood, that awareness remains in waking dream also. It never goes off once found. Then you are free. Not you, we are free. That is touched. And it is independent of anything else. So you see the profound meaning of the Gayatri.